UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus PYFER in Seattle, Washington is this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card from the bottom all the way to top, give my full card predictions and breakdown for what I think will happen in each fight. This is a decent, somewhat okay fight night. The last Seattle one was a banger. That was Cejudo versus Yadong. It was a banger all the way up until like the main card. So I got some high hopes for this one, but we're starting off with Alexa Thainara versus Bruna Brazil. This is an interesting fight. Because I do know both of these fighters, or I do know of both of these fighters. I don't know them personally, obviously, but I am going to lean towards Alexa Thainara in this matchup. I think she's a little bit more dangerous. But Bruna Brazil could definitely win this one. I don't know. I've got it kind of in my head that Alexa Thainara is just going to do a little bit more in this fight, have a little bit more of a eagerness to win. And yeah, I'm gonna go with Alexa Thainara, probably by a late TKO or a decision. Um, but I've just got TKO from ground and pound in my mind. And yeah, I think Alexa Thainara wins this fight over Bruna Brazil to start off UFC Seattle. And yeah, we're gonna move swiftly on, but I'm so slightly excited for that fight. Then we have Ricky Simone versus Adrian Yanez. I'm going to go with Ricky Simone to win this matchup. The reason I'm picking Ricky Simone is because Ricky Simone has impressed me in a couple of his last few fights, and Adrian Yanez has not really. Ricky Simone, I think, is able to cause enough damage. He's going to uh, throw pretty hard in there. He's gonna mix in the wrestling when he has to, and I think he's more dangerous on the feet than Adrian Yanez right now at this point in their careers. Ricky Simone has just impressed me a little bit more, and yeah, I'm gonna go with him to win this fight by a second round TKO or straight up just knockout over Adrian Yanez. But I could see Ricky mixing in the grappling, getting submission. But yeah, I'm going with Ricky Simone to beat Adrian Yanez. Then we have Navajo Sterling versus Bruno Lopez. I'm going with Navajo Sterling to win this fight. Yeah, Navajo Sterling's got very good striking. He's out of that same city kickboxing gym that a lot of the other guys like Adesanya and Hooker and what's the little one's name? Oh, why am I forgetting his name now? He fought Pantoja for the belt. He's the Maui one. He does the thing. He's on a retirement right now. Oh wow, I'm blanking completely on his name, but he is also a part of that gym, and Navajo Sterling has really good striking. Um, and I think he's just going to keep kind of beating up on some of these unranked light heavyweights. Starting again with Bruno Lopez, he's 8-0 undefeated. Navajo Sterling is, and yeah, I think Navajo Sterling wins this fight. Um, Bruno Lopez could win, but I don't see it happening. I see Navajo Sterling winning this one pretty handily. And yeah, I think he's going to knock out or go to a decision with Bruno Lopez. Um, yeah, that's really all. Kai Kara France, that's the fighter. Kai Kara France. Wow. Yep, I got it now. Casey O'Neill versus Gabriela Fernandez. This fight, I'm gonna go with Gabriela Fernandez to win this fight over Casey O'Neill. I think Casey O'Neill. This one's a close fight. I think they could both win, but I think Gabriela Fernandez, beating Wang Kong and some of her other performances, I think I'm leaning towards her to win this fight. By a submission. I don't know why I've got it in my mind that she's gonna submit Casey O'Neill. I don't know if that'll be easy enough for her from the way I'm thinking of it, but I'm thinking of a rear naked choke. She just gets on the back while they're up against the cage, then rolls it off and gets a rear naked choke victory over Casey O'Neill. And yeah, Gabrielle Fernandez is who I'm picking to win that matchup. Then we move up to Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune. I'm going to go with this one's a tough one. Marcin Tybura, obviously, he's a veteran. We know all of him. He's coming off of the loss to Ante Dalia. He was supposed to fight Walter Walker, couldn't. And he is coming off of the fight with Ante Dalia, where he got knocked out by Ante, and I believe it was Ante's debut or second fight in the UFC. And yeah, Marcin Tybura, he's a good fighter. He could definitely win this, and I see him in my brain winning this. But Tyrell Fortune, I've seen some of his stuff. I think he's going to be able to hit hard enough to knock out Marcin Tybura a second time in a row, um, and beat him. I think Tyrell Fortune. I think he's got some of the things that I'm looking for him to beat somebody like Marcin Tybura, coming off of this layoff and that knockout loss to Dalia. So I'm going to pick Tyrell Fortune. I think this fight could go either way, though. I think Marcin Tybura could definitely win. Um, could just y'all must have forgot and get his way to a win here. But yeah, I'm going with Tyrell to win this fight. Via knockout in the second round. I think he's gonna take a little longer than what Ante did take. Then we have Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson Jr. Um Now if I'm remembering correctly, Lance Gibson Jr. is the guy that stepped up or that fought uh, Bobby Green, King Green, Bobby Green, whatever, on somewhat short notice. I think it might have been, but I am going to, and he performed awfully in that fight. He doesn't really deserve to be in the UFC. I'm gonna go with Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper's coming off of the Alexander Hernandez knockout loss. Um, but I'm gonna go with Chase Hooper to win this fight. I think he's going to be able to initiate his grappling good enough, and I think he's just going to beat Lance Gibson Jr. Lance Gibson Jr. is just not really, I don't think, UFC caliber yet, and I think Chase is going to be able to get him down, get to a submission. For some weird reason, I'm feeling heel hook, but I doubt that'll happen. But I am feeling a heel hook, or a Kimura of some sort, and yeah, so I'm thinking Chase Hooper wins this fight by submission on Lance Gibson Jr. Then we move up to Ignacio Bahamondes versus Tofik Musayev. I'm going to. This fight is interesting to me because Tofik Musayev is, I believe, he was on short notice to fight Muktabek Orablai at UFC Azerbaijan, which is where he is from. And then Ignacio Bahamondes is coming off the loss to Rafael Fiziev. Um, and what's interesting about that is that I think Ignacio is a good striker. He's a tough fighter. I don't know if Tofik Musayev has really anything for Ignacio on the feet. And Ignacio is a very difficult challenge on the feet. I mean, he's 6'3", 75.5-inch reach. That's a huge advantage for him. And then on the ground, he's not that bad either. He submitted Jalen Turner in what was Jalen Turner's final fight. Now is no longer Jalen Turner's final fight. Jalen is back. But Ignacio submitted Jalen Turner with a triangle. I think Ignacio Bahamondes wins this fight by knockout. Where he gets a combination. He's gonna keep it long and keep Tafik on the end of most of his punches. And I think he's gonna end up mixing in the kicks enough, and then Tafik's gonna shoot for something while he's hurt and get knocked out with a knee where that's gonna start it. He's gonna get hurt, try and wobble away. Ignacio's gonna end up on top, TKO with hammer fists, and yeah, I think Ignacio wins this fight with a knee being the major thing that leads to the end of the action. And yeah, Ignacio Bahamondes I think wins over Tafik Musayev. Then we get up to Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson. Um, Kyle Nelson coming off of the very close fight, I believe it was, with Matt Fervola. Terrence McKinney coming off of the loss to, I believe it was Chris Duncan. Both of those guys, incredibly fast stars. I might be thinking wrong, but I think it was the Chris Duncan fight that he lost. But yeah, Terrence McKinney, I think he will win this fight over Kyle Nelson. I think Terrence McKinney is a extremely fast starter. I think he's going to go straight out there, go for the knockout or for the submission, and I think he's going to get it. I think he's going to try and finish this fight quick. And I think he knocks out Kyle Nelson in the first round. I think he's just going to go out extremely. I mean, obviously, it's Terrence McKinney. He always goes out swinging, and I could see him going out and finishing Kyle Nelson in the first round. I think he's that quick. He's reckless enough. He could get caught, and obviously, it's a Terrence McKinney fight. You never know what's going to happen. But I see him knocking out I see him knocking out Kyle Nelson in the first round. You literally have no way of picking what punch Terrence McKinney is going to throw or kick he will throw to finish it. But that is my bet, is Terrence McKinney by first round knockout over Kyle Nelson. Then we move up to Mansur Abdul Malik versus Yusri Belgarui. This is a interesting fight and very difficult for me to pick. Because these are two people that I think are very, very good prospects right now. Mansur Abdul Malik is a good rising prospect, undefeated. Yusri Belgarui, he is a very good prospect as well. Extremely tall for middleweight, 6'6", 79-inch reach, which Mansur Abdul Malik has a 79.5, and he's only 6'2". But both of these guys have impressed me. Yusri Belgarui in his last performance very much so impressed me. Mansur Abdul Malik, I believe, was his last fight the Cody Brundage one? Or was... No, it might not have been. But one of his last fights did impress me, and then the other one didn't. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to pick Yusri Belgarui to win this fight. I think his range is going to be very good, and I think he's powerful enough, and I think he's going to be able to do it. I think Mansur, honestly, logically, I should pick Mansur Abdul Malik, but I'm going to pick Yusri Belgarui to win this fight. I think he's just going to be able to stay long. I think he's going to be a tricky challenge for Mansur, and I think Mansur has kind of gotten a little bit more confident that he can just run through a lot of guys, and I think Yusri will not be somebody he will be able to do that with. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Yusri Belgarui to win this matchup. And I think it's going to be a pretty impressive fight from Yusri Belgarui. So, yeah, I'm going to go out on the limb and say that Mansur Abdul Malik loses his first fight. I don't know if I'm in the minority with this, but I feel like I am because Mansur is such a touted prospect. But Yusri is somebody that I think will be a tricky fight for anybody in the middleweight division right now. Then we have Juliana Rosa versus Loran Douglas. This fight, I don't know. Juliana Rosa, I don't know really either of these. I know obviously Juliana Rosa, but I'm not like... I haven't watched every single one of his fights. I mean, he's fought 44 times. I've not watched every single one, but from what I've seen, I think he's going to beat Loran Douglas. Loran Douglas, maybe he comes out, he absolutely shocks me, but I'm going to go with Juliana Rosa to win this fight. Loran Douglas, he definitely could, though. But Juliana Rosa, I think, is a tough guy, especially for the debuters. And so I'm going to... No, you know what? I'm going to stick by it. I'm going to go with Juliana Rosa. I don't know why. Just when this fight I first saw it, I got the gut feeling that Juliana Rosa will win this by a decision. I don't... It's just that's that gut feeling that he's going to veteran it out. And I think Juliana Rosa wins this fight in a close fought decision where he just looks a little bit more experienced than Larian Douglas. Then we move up to Michael Chiesa versus Carlston Harris. I'm going with Michael Chiesa. They kind of are giving him a little bit more of a layup. With Michael Chiesa to win this fight, I think he's just going to be able to use his grappling against Carlston Harris, and I think he'll win in his hometown and hopefully retire so we don't have to see Michael Chiesa anymore. And yeah, I'm going to go with Michael Chiesa. I'm going to stick with my gut. I think they want to give Michael Chiesa a win in Seattle on what could be his final fight. That's why they gave him Niko Price. Then we have Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber. This fight is very interesting. Number 3 versus, what was it, number 5 in the world? Number 3 versus number 5. Alexa Grasso, Macy Barber is our co-main event, and I am excited for this fight because I am slightly higher on Macy Barber than some people seem to be now because of certain things she's had happen. I believe she was the one that had the seizure and the main event got canceled. And Alexa Grasso has not looked good since that fight where she won the championship and had the draw with Valentina in the second fight. I do not think Alexa Grasso will win this fight. I think she's gonna lose. I think Macy Barber goes out there and initiates some of the grappling, has some decent striking. But I think she's gonna overdo Alexa with the grappling. Alexa just has not seemed motivated to fight really anymore. She had her big moment, and I don't think she's in it mentally enough to continue. Wow, that my Alexa just heard that and tried to talk. But Grasso, I'm gonna stick to Grasso now because that all of a sudden heard me. Grasso, I do not see winning this fight just because I do not see her as the most motivated, the most committed fighter currently. And I think Macy is at that point in her mind. She is thinking, I can still go out and I can still compete for the title. Um, and yeah, so I'm gonna go with Macy Barber to win this fight. I see her initiating the grappling really hard in this fight and getting some good ground and pound in, and maybe even submitting Alexa Grasso in the third round. I don't think Grasso is somebody that's easy to submit. Valentina went the 5 rounds at the Sphere with her and didn't really try to, but also couldn't get to that position to submit Alexa. So yeah, Macy Barber I think wins this co-main event by a submission in the third or a close fought decision. Where we just go leave it saying Alexa could have done more and didn't. Why does that thing keep hearing me? Grasso could have done more, but she didn't. Then we move up to the main event of the evening. Um, Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. This is a very interesting matchup, and I was super shocked, super shocked to see get announced. Because Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer is it feels like the most feed the old dog to the young dog trick we've ever seen. Israel Adesanya is obviously one of the greatest middleweights of all time, arguably the greatest middleweight ever. Joe Pyfer is up and coming, has failed to get into the rankings before, but now is back into them. He had tried to fight Jack Hermanson, lost that fight pretty clearly because he just gassed out immediately, kept trying for the right hand. And Israel Adesanya is coming off of the worst losing streak in his career. In his last 5 fights, he's lost 4 of them. He lost to Alex Pereira, then beat Pereira, then lost to Sean Strickland in a dominant fight from Sean Strickland. Then after that, wow, my dog's barking. After that Sean Strickland fight, he lost to Dricus du Plessis. Um, and then after that Dricus du Plessis fight, he lost to Nasruddin Imavov. So he's on a 3-fight losing streak. One of them by dominant decision where he got dog walked pretty much the entire time. Then one where he lost by a submission to Dricus. Then one where he got knocked out cold by Imavov. It's gonna be hard because I think the Adesanya of the Pereira 2 fight, of the Pereira 1 fight, I think he beats Joe Pyfer handedly. Joe Pyfer, he beat Abus Magomedov, and who did he beat last time? Kelvin Gastelum, I believe. But he had a very tough fight with Kelvin where he was losing in the third round. This is a 5-round main event. Um, I just, but Pyfer's got the power in his hands to shut off Adesanya in the first round, honestly. But Adesanya, I'm gonna be honest, I do not think Adesanya is completely washed. And the thing I think that's worth noting is that in the Strickland fight, he lost that bad. He got walked through the entire time. And Strickland just proved that he was better. But Strickland is a very tricky technical striker that you have to be kind of used to him to look good against, or you have to just get narrowly close to beating him. Dricus du Plessis, Adesanya was beating Dricus du Plessis in that fight until Dricus started mixing it in more. Got more chaotic and wore down on Adesanya and got the submission. And then in the Imavov fight, he was beating Imavov. Israel Adesanya was beating Imavov pretty clearly. It only went to like the second round, but people forget Adesanya got eye poked in that fight. Imavov coming from the same camp as Cyril Gane, those guys like to use eye pokes in their fights. And Imavov eye poked Adesanya. Adesanya tried to do the thing that Pereira did and say no to the ref. I'm still good. And then it was like an exchange later. The overhand right came on that same side as the compromised eye, knocks down Adesanya, and then gets knocked out against the cage. And it's been a while since that fight. I think Israel Adesanya wins this fight. I think he's going to beat Joe PYFER, and I don't know if he even needs to knock out Joe PYFER. I just think as the fight goes on, PYFER has shown that he has very, very bad cardio issues. He had shown it against Kelvin Gastelum. He had shown it very badly in the Jack Hermanson fight. And I think he's going to show that those problems in this fight too. Obviously, he can knock out Adesanya in the first or second or third or fourth or fifth round. But I think that Adesanya is going to be, he's one of the most intelligent strikers we've ever seen. And I think he's going to be a tough matchup for Joe PYFER. Um, and I think Adesanya's got motivation to win this fight because he doesn't want to be on a 4-fight skid. I think Joe PYFER, he's young enough where I think if he loses this fight, yeah, he lost to Israel Adesanya. He can just turn around and try and win fight up in the rankings. If Adesanya loses this, he just lost to number 14 in the world, who had lost very recently to Jack Hermanson and had a very close fight with Kelvin Gastelum. I think Adesanya wins this fight. I think he's going to stay long. I think he's going to. PYFER's going to go in there and try and knock off Adesanya's head or roll him up in the grappling, which obviously PYFER could still try and do. But I think Adesanya's takedown defense is still good, and I think he's going to be good enough to go out there and put on an Adesanya type performance where he is at his kickboxing best and just touching up PYFER on the feet enough to keep PYFER at bay, and I think either late fourth round finish or go to a decision where he wears on PYFER's legs, wears on PYFER's body, and gets the decision. And yeah, I think Israel Adesanya wins this matchup over Joe PYFER. Later on in the fight, it gets better for Adesanya, and yeah, I think he beats Joe PYFER. I just think it's way too much too soon, and I think Adesanya. I think Imavov runs through PYFER pretty handedly right now, and I think Adesanya was beating PYFER or beating Imavov in the early parts of their fight and was on the way to keep doing it. That eye poke really changed things to get the knockout, but I think he was going to be 2 rounds up on it, Imavov. So yeah, I'm going with Israel Adesanya. This could have aged poorly when Adesanya gets flatline KO'd by Joe PYFER due to that power. But I'm going with Israel Adesanya to win the fight over Joe PYFER. I've got that feeling, and yeah, that's the entire card from the bottom all the way to top. Hopefully, I do good on picks. Let me know what you think of each of these fights, and who you think's gonna win, and what you think of the main event. And yeah, I'll be doing a recap reaction video of this card on Sunday most likely. And yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and let me know what you think. Again, I'm repeating myself. Like, subscribe, share, whatever you can do. Follow me on TikTok, and yeah, bye. Have a good day.